Okay, so here we go, everybody, and welcome to today's seminar on your MSc learning programs that are available, but not just the MSc learning programs. We also offer a number of short programs lasting for a few days, up to maybe a few months. We offer certificate and diploma programs, so we're going to be touching lightly on all these programs today. So basically, what's our aim for today? What are we hoping to do? Well, we're going to be summarizing the courses that are available. We're going to be explaining the structure, the module structure of the program, how they're delivered and their duration. And we're going to hopefully explain the importance of future learning opportunities and what this will mean to your practices and your personal development. And this all fits very much in line with the GDC's new e-learning and what the GDC want to see in terms of future professional development. And they have this little logo in their booklets, which is record, plan, do, and reflect. It doesn't say clinical training, present patients, do this, that, and the other. It says reflect. So it wants you to start practicing reflective medicine. And part of your personal development plan that the GDC expect you to do is to start identifying for yourselves the areas that you need to research on, the areas that you feel are deficient. So for example, I come from an implant background. Maybe I'm doing a lot of implants. Maybe I feel I need to know more about guided. I need to know more about digital implant placement because I've come from a conventional background. Maybe you're doing orthodontics, maybe you're doing clear aligners in your practices, and you feel I now need to know more about fixed because clear aligners will only take me so far. So this is reflecting on your knowledge and on your skills and deciding what areas you need to research or get more training in to build up your personal development, your professional development. So this is what the whole program is about. So our MSc, as well as being a blended MSc, also encourages you to talk with your tutors and highlight the areas that you want to explore more. MScs aren't a structured learning program that you might have been used to in an undergraduate setting. The MSc is more about facilitating your own self-learning and development. What are you interested to do? We could set up something and it may be completely, not what you need in your practices. It's not what you require to develop. So this program is structured to be flexible enough for you to pursue your own development. Now, this is Bolton. This is the main Senate building at Bolton. This is the university that accredits our MScs. So the MScs that we award and the certificates and diploma are all accredited by Bolton University. So if you were to do a certificate part of the program with us, you would get a level 7 HE qualification. Now, there's a lot of mention of level 7s out there, and some of you may have heard about it and not too sure. Well, level 7 just means that it's a qualification that's delivered after an undergraduate qualification. So most people do level 7, they've already got an undergraduate degree, whereas you might not have an undergraduate degree and still do a diploma or still do a certificate course. But for it to be a level 7, it has to be something that you take after your undergraduate qualification, right? So this is the difference between a level 7 and other things. So most important now, people mention level 7s, but there's a HE level 7 and there's a level 7. Level 7s can be awarded by private institutions, but they are not HE level 7s, they're not higher education. Higher educational level 7s can only be awarded by a university, by a degree awarding institution as approved by the UK government. So they're the highest version of a level 7. So if you do one of our diplomas, you'll get a level 7 diploma from Bolton. That will be the highest level. So just to recap, all our degrees are from Bolton University. Bolton University is accredited by the government and the Privy Council to award MScs or level 7. An MSc is a level 7. So they are approved to do that. If you do the diploma part of the MSc or the certificate part of the levels of the MSc, you will be given a level 7, but a HE level 7. And that is the highest ranked postgraduate qualification you can get. A diploma at HE level 7 is almost akin to a degree. So remember, there is a very important difference, and not all level 7s out there are the same. They are delivered to a level, but they're not the same as a level 7. A little bit about Bolton University. It goes back, or it traces its history to 1825. So it's not a new institution by any means. And it was formed in Bolton, in that part of England, was where the textile industry was very big. And initially, it was really focusing on textiles. Later on, moving into the 70s and 80s, it became more technical and delivered more technical programs. The Chancellor of the university is the Earl of St Andrews, and that's Prince Edward, and he is the overall Vice Chancellor. So we have a very strong tradition. We're very founded. We're a very stable institution. You know, with 120 odd years of, or even longer, I say two, can't do the sums at the moment. Maybe those of you can, but you're approaching nearly 200 years of establishment here. It's not going to disappear overnight. Many newer universities, unfortunately, thanks to COVID, may not be around in the near future. You want to know that the degree awarding institution that you go with is stable and not one that's going to lightly disappear. Right. Big thing about Bolton is they are the home for the National Centre for Motorsport Engineering, and they've invested 13 million into developing this. Now, this sports car, which you may see on some of the brochures, has actually been made by the students on the programme, and they race that car, and that's why it has the Bolton logo on it. And of course, in order to develop something like that, they have to use CAD/CAM. And remember, all these digital technologies, which we're now using in dentistry, have been in engineering for at least 10 to 15 years. So we have actually taken those technologies and we've skimmed them down for dental application. So engineering and digital dentistry go hand in hand. Now, the City of London Dental School itself is based and run out of this building in central London at Southgate. It's about 25 minutes by tube from Piccadilly. It's fairly central. There are good hotels in the area. There's one about 2 minutes walk across the road, a Premier Inn. So when you come to do your face-to-face, it's really easy for you to study and come to your lectures at this building in London. Well, what are the programs that we're currently offering? Well, we have the MSc in Clinical Dentistry, which is a global type of MSc. It's a self-structured MSc. And if one of the titles that we have doesn't quite appeal to you, or you feel that you need something different, then you can pick from a number of modules and assemble your own MSc. So you might feel, I want to do some restorative and maybe a bit of ortho, and this module looks interesting. And at the end of the day, you'll be awarded an MSc in Clinical Dentistry that you've assembled yourself. And this is about directing your own education again, which is what I mentioned at the start about the uniqueness of this program and the way education's forward. You've all got your undergraduate degrees. Now you want to develop your own personal learning plan, and this qualification lets you do it. Some of you may be interested in orthodontics, so we offer our dentofacial program. We have periodontology, we have endodontics, and then we also offer combined approaches as well, where some people might want to do restorative and combine that with a bit of perio. And we also have an MSc in restorative dentistry. This is on one of our teaching facilities at Southgate, at the college, at the campus there, and this is where some of your lectures will be given. Also coming on in the next few months are some new titles based on implantology and facial aesthetics. We've got the specialist practice of non-surgical interventions, which is our facial aesthetics program, and this is proving very popular, and we by far get the most inquiries for information for this program, followed by orthodontics and implants in that order. So this is a very popular program. And for those of you looking to maybe expand your practices and look for other things, this could be very useful one. At least as far as I know, it doesn't develop aerosols. So it might be one of those COVID-friendly activities. So bear in mind that. Again, a lot of implant dentistry does not develop aerosols. So again, this may be an opportunity to look at doing these programs. And we have two programs in implant dentistry, one which is more digitally focused, and the other one, which is a restorative one, is based more on the restorative side than the actual placement side. We also offer some short either CPD programs, which you've already attended. Some of you have already been on those programs, but we also offer short duration programs like weekend programs, and these are delivered either in London or internationally. And of course, we have our level 7, our HE level 7 university certificates and diplomas. So any of our MSCs can be taken to certificate and diploma level. When we do our practical training programs, we might be doing typhodont training, we might be doing printing, we might be doing digital scanning, all these sorts of programs. We have about 4 or 5 laboratories like this where we can deliver these trainings. If we need to do any chairside work on scanning, we have portable dental chairs. So we can offer a number of things. We don't actually carry out any clinical training at the centre. We prefer that to happen in regional centres rather than at the school. So at the moment, you might be thinking, well, MSc is a big step and why should I be doing it? Well, remember, you know, every day, most of us fall over a number of opportunities. The problem is most of us, again, get up and walk past them. So yes, we're in a situation, things are uncertain about the future of dentistry. And you may be one of these people that think your glass is half empty, or you may be the type of the person who thinks your glass is half full. Or if you're a clever person, what you'll do is you'll redesign the glass to fit the contents. All right? So what you have to do now is look at your practices, I believe, and redesign your approach to practice to fit the environment. You can't carry on, I think, for the foreseeable future, delivering dentistry perhaps in the same way that you've done it. Maybe we're fortunately we can, but obviously it seems like we're going to be living with this virus situation for a long time. So I foresee that our treatment times will have to give patients longer time for treatments. We'll have to stick very much to appointments. And this means that the treatment will become more expensive, and it will mean that perhaps you see fewer numbers. But again, as long as you make the turnover at the end of the day, maybe it's better to see fewer numbers. All right, but when you see those people, are you able to offer them something? Are you able to sell something on above and beyond what you're doing already? And this is important to the MSc. It gives you some additional skill that you can promote and market. And I always remember in my own practice probably 20 years ago, and I just started doing implants, and a lady came from one of the local hotels. She was a cleaner, and she came from the one of the hotels, and she just came in at lunchtime as an emergency to have, a denture repair. So she came in just as an emergency in my lunchtime. I went down to see her, and just by chance, I suppose, I started talking about implants to this lady who'd come for a denture repair because she'd mentioned she didn't like dentures. And at that time, 20 odd years ago, this lady committed to a £20,000 treatment plan, full arch implant restorations. And when I said, when would you like to start? She actually said, right now. So that was an opportunity. Even if she hadn't gone on and had the implants, she would have friends and maybe she would have discussed it. But the point is, if I hadn't had that extra skill at that time, I would have done the denture repair and made probably £25, and that would have been the end of the story. But because I had something additional to offer, and sometimes patients may ask you, oh, about orthodontics, or they may ask you about these, or you may see people with crowding, but because you haven't got the skills to be able to offer that service, you don't mention it. But if you have orthodontic skills, you may see people with anterior crowding. You've now got longer time with your patients. Use that longer time to market your skills. Even if they don't go with it, they may have somebody in the family that they'll share that information with that will go with the treatment plan. So whilst I'm talking about these opportunities now, this situation presents us, I'm going to hand over at this point and introduce you to Rahul Doshi.
So a little bit about me. I work with my wife Bhavna, and we coach practices to grow. I mean, and the thought process was this. I was in a position where I was learning new clinical skills about 25 years ago, and this was specifically related to cosmetic dentistry. And then when I actually learned those skills, what I didn't want to do is go to a course, spend my time, energy, and my financial resource on it and not make use of it. The only way to make use of it is to actually practice new learned skill immediately within the practice, so that the team become comfortable with that new type of service that you're providing your patients. There's a system, and by doing it on a regular basis, you become more confident. The patients see that confidence, and you actually start growing in your clinical ability, but in also so many ways. So I realized that we needed to do a fair number of things to achieve that. So I'll just talk about that in a second. So just to introduce a little bit about myself and my wife Bhavna. The slide has been on for several seconds. I'm not going to go through all those aspects there. So it just gives you a brief background of what we've been doing over the last 25 years. So when patients come to our practice, they need to know that we have a vision to provide a type of service. That vision needs to be communicated to the team. It needs to be communicated to all people so that everybody's going along the same pathway. A practice flourishes when it's team-led, when the team are motivated, the team are communicating that service to the patients, and everything is then working in a systemized manner to create a stressed, reduced environment where the communication of what you offer is given to all people, whether it's patients, the team, so we're all on the same page. And then that is then marketed in various modalities to those interested. And of course, we need to look at how this works financially, but the opportunity will be there to grow the practice and grow the income within the practice by doing ethical dentistry that you learn by going on a clinical course. And the key aspect of this is picking up a clinical skill. So you can't grow a practice if you can't differentiate yourself from other practices or other dentists. You can't grow unless there is a specific asset that you can promote, which is going to be perceived as being an asset which is better or above perhaps other dentists who don't do what you do. So the core of it is always to do with having a clinical skill that you develop and grow, become accomplished at, you practice, you do more of, and that confidence just shines through, and that's how practice growth has occurred. So it's always about trying to create a win-win-win situation for the dentist, the team, and the patients in an ethical manner. And without all people winning, we're not going to achieve a successful outcome. So this is to create a long-term successful outcome for all parties. And the team are an important source where we want to create a methodology where the marketing, the communication, the actual patient journey, the leadership all occurs through the team, so that as the clinician or a practice owner, you actually have less ownership or reduced stress in guiding this forward. At the moment, my current role is that I am a clinical strategy development director for about 75 practices within a corporate group called Dentec, where each practice is allowed clinical freedom to what it does. However, for me to be in control of 75 practices, I would need to have all the teams working in an efficient, in a leadership role, as opposed to being present in every single practice. And I rarely visit these practices because the team drive this. When the team drive this, the communication process between each other, to each other, and to the patients will always increase. And that highest level of communication then creates certainty, positivity in what the patients perceive. And it's all about the patient's perception of it being a place that they should have their treatment done, as opposed to a practice around the corner. And when we know exactly what vision we want, what actual type of dentistry we want to provide our patients, and that almost comes from what type of clinical skill you want to grow with, we can then start promoting that to your patients, using the right type of medium, knowing what type of patients may want the services that you are trying to provide them. So for example, if you were to Google right now for cosmetic dentist, we will appear #1 on the search engine. You can see that as theperfectsmile.co.uk. That's our website. That's probably the most visited dental website in Europe right now. And just for those people who don't know, we are in Hertford, which is about 20 miles north of London. So we're not even in London yet. We're appearing nationally for a very popular term called cosmetic dentist, and other terms like veneers, etc. So it's really important to know that whatever we do, it's all about creating a brand perception of who you are, or what your team does, what your practice does. And that's the only way your patients will know how good you are as a clinician. And it's trying to promote that clinical skill to your patients through the various modalities of having this vision, having this clinical skill, creating a patient journey in a systemized fashion, knowing the actual numbers, motivating the team, and having a marketing plan for this to work. So that, in a nutshell, is what Bhavna and I talk about.
You know, yes, you can market, but you need to have a skill to market. If you don't have a skill or any additional skill to market, and you can't back this up, because patients will also be discerning. If there's two people offering veneers, or even if I was going for a treatment and I had to choose between two doctors, I think I would go for the one that had the qualifications after their name rather than somebody that doesn't. They may both be equally as good, but from a patient and from a consumer perspective, how do you know which is a better dentist? Who can you trust more? And from their point of view, they might feel more confident with somebody with an MSc. Now, when it comes to the MSc, there's not just one entry point. We run the programs throughout the year. Every 3 months, there's a different entry point into the programs. So when you decide to join the program, you don't need to wait for an entire 12 months and the situation may change. You know your situation for the next 12 months. You need to start now. We can normally get you enrolled in a program up and running within 3 months, and then you join the next module in that. So because each module is a standalone program, it doesn't need to be taken in any specific order. You do need to complete a certain number of modules to be able to go into the dissertation year, but you can join at any place. And you can also exit, as well as entering, you can exit. And if you've done the sufficient modules, you can exit with a certificate or you can exit with a diploma. This means that if you start one of our programs and then find you can't finish it for any reason, you can receive some acknowledgement of your participation. If you were to leave after just one module, we would award you a certificate which would show that you attended and participated in that particular module. It's called a postgraduate award, PGA, and that PGA is from, again, a university, so it's not just anything. It does mean that you completed a university level diploma. Our courses are blended learning, and that means that you have an element delivered online and you have an element of face-to-face. 95% of this program is online, which is ideal if you're not living in London, if you find traveling to the venue difficult. Also, even if you can't attend the face-to-face days, a day can be attended online as well. And if it's a practical day, again, those can be probably caught up at another time. So because we run the practical days, we repeat them 3 times in a year. So even if you couldn't meet the practical day for that module, you could maybe attend it later on. So it really is very flexible. When it comes to the online component, we found that many students, in fact the majority of students, do require assistance and help and support through the process. So it's not just a matter of saying, well, here's your log on to a lot of pre-recorded material, now off you go, just watch it. You do have an academic coach or a tutor specific for each module. That's normally the module leader, and you have regular meetings with them online, virtual meetings, to discuss your progress and to help you through the various parts, because you know, this is an academic course. Some of the terms, some of what's expected to you will be very different to what you're used to, and you will need a lot of help and support, and we recognize this, and this is why we provide the academic tutors. If we didn't need them, we wouldn't provide them, but we know the majority of you will need some help along the way. At the moment, we're only offering the part-time version. One of the questions people ask is, how quickly can I complete it? Well, you could, if you have the time and you can keep up with the assignments and the work, you could complete it under 18 months. Also, when it's important that all the students have an interview when they're starting the program, because often we determine which modules you need to take. And it may well be that if you already have a certain amount of expertise in, let's say, orthodontics or implants, we might say, well, you really don't need to do the risk assessment module. You don't need to do the occlusion module, let's say. And this reduces the number of modules, and it reduces the amount of time that you have to spend to get your MSc. And more importantly, of course, it reduces the cost, because you need less training to get the credits for your MSc. So this is a very important part of the course, that we will tailor it to what your learning needs are. So if you already know a lot about occlusion, why on earth do we make you do an occlusion course? It's completely not required, and you're spending money on something that you don't need. So this is the way we say all our programs are tailored and costed according to what you need to do. With any validated program, you must have assessment. You have to be able to show that you've attended the modules, and you have to be able to demonstrate what you've learned. And if, let's say, you came before the GDC or a medico-legal situation, one of the things they want to know is not just what courses you've attended, but also what assessment you undertook. How did the course assess your competency and your abilities? If it's just a lecture that you attend like today, there's no assessment involved in this lecture. We're not going to ask you questions at the end of it or grade you. This is the importance of assessment, because it demonstrates what you have learned and to what level you've learned it. So assessment is a very important part of the whole thing. So there is assessment. Now that assessment is not via examination. There are no examinations in this program. This assessment is made through written assignments, through projects, portfolio work, maybe case studies. This is what when it comes to clinical presentations, we don't expect you to present whole completed cases A to Z. We're not prescriptive in that we say you have to produce 20 orthodontic cases, or you have to produce 10 implant cases or veneer cases or whatever. We're not that prescriptive. Remember, it's about reflection. This is a reflective course. What we want to see is we want to see a selection of certain parts of courses that of cases maybe in the clinical module, and it might just show the end result of some implants, and we want you to reflect on what you learn, what difficulties you encountered in this case, what you've taken away from this case. So often when I'm presenting implant cases to students, I explain to them what that case taught me. I don't show a series of slides and say, look, this is how clever I am. I placed this implant and look what a marvelous result. That doesn't demonstrate what I've actually learned. So I can only do that by reflecting on the case and say, well, if I had my time again, I might have done this differently, or I might have changed this differently. And all the lecturers that you attend will be presenting their work very much from a reflective point of view, because that's what we're about. We're about reflecting, and through reflecting, you can identify your weak areas and identify those areas that you need to do more work on. So this is the point of assignments, because when you write an assignment, you get a chance to really sit down and think about something and reflect on it and consider it. But if it's just a multiple choice examination, where's the reflection in that? If it's an examination question asking you the A's and B's and C's, that's just a matter of recalling knowledge. You know, you're just becoming a Google. But when you bring into it reflection, that really shows what you've learned and what you understand. And this is why our assignments are based on reflection, not on the regurgitation of knowledge and republication of other people's work. It's a modular structure. That means it's divided into little units, little packages, if you like, and these packages can pretty well, up to the dissertation level, these packages can be taken in virtually any order, and each package takes about 4 months to complete. And it might well be that you complete one package, but then you find that you can't go on the next package for any reason. Well, that's okay. You just drop out for a few months and catch that next package when it comes around again. So you can defer. So again, it's all about flexibility. It's all about taking into account, you know, your own personal learning needs. You know, what are you doing in, you know, things happen in practice, don't they? Yeah. So it's all about this, you know, developing yourself at the speed you can go at. If you were a real high flyer and you said, right, I want to do this in a very quickest time, you could take 3 modules all at the same time if you wanted. But that'd be 3 times the amount of work, 3 times the amount of time. If your practice is such and your environment, your home environment is such to allow you to spend that amount of time and do 3 modules at the same time, why not? There's not a problem, okay? Again, through every one of these modules, you will have regular online meetings with your academic coach. There will be some seminars arranged, and this will be through Zoom or equivalent type of platform. Now, this is the module structure. These are the credits. Each module carries with it 20 credits, apart from the dissertation one, which is the biggest one, and that is 60 credits. There are certain modules that are absolutely core to everything, and those are the dissertation, the understanding research, and the patient risk assessment and management. So those ones are absolutely essential. Obviously, the patient risk assessment and management varies slightly in its content, depending on what speciality you're taking. But basically, the learning outcome is the same, which is how do you manage risk and assess your patients and provide consent. Understanding research and critical appraisal, or our Eureka module, helps you to evaluate evidence in the literature, and all our treatments should be, wherever possible, evidence-based. Unfortunately, our undergraduate programs did not teach us on how to assess evidence and read articles. It's not something that's taught normally at undergraduate level, or if it is, it's in a very superficial manner, whereas this course teaches you to go through the literature, find the literature and assess it. Is it relevant? Is it important? What benefit is it to you in practice? And then basically you then move on to your dissertation. So these other remaining modules, if you want, these other 4 remaining modules are very much related to the programs you're doing. And I say, it may well be that some of these modules can be taken out of your pathway. If at interview we feel you've already got quite a lot of knowledge on a particular thing, we won't expect you to redo that module. And so you could end up doing an MSc with only having to take 3 out of the 7 modules that you need to do if you've already got level 7 from somewhere else, or you've got a lot of experience. So you don't necessarily have to do all the modules. And I say if you don't do all the modules, that reflects on the amount of time that it takes. So you could be completing your MSc within 18 months or even less. It could be down to as little as a year, depending on how quickly you can do the work. If you could do 2 modules out of the 3 at the same time, that's 40 credits, and then do the dissertation in 6 months, you could have your MSc within a year. No problem at all. It really depends on your previous learning and the amount of time you can devote to the program. We're not going to hold you up. We're going to facilitate your rapid progression through the program, and we want to also make sure that you do, of course, take away useful information at the end of it. So these programs, these core modules, are supported by adjunctive programs, which are additional programs which are not necessarily compulsory for you to attend. They're recorded and they're presented maybe a few every week. They'll be on different topics. Some may be of interest to you, and they'll be very like the CPD programs that some of you have already attended. In nature, they'll be an hour's long or hour and a half, and you can drop in and out of those as you will. And of course, as I said, this is a reflective program where you have to look at your own learning needs. So if you decide, well, I'm doing this thing in restorative, but my perio is a bit weak and I think I should know a bit more about that. Oh, there's an adjunctive program on perio here. It's not part of my MSc, but it's going to help my learning. You'll get CPD for that. And of course, you can put it into your personal development plan. And we would like to see at the end of this that you all have a very strong personal development learning program, development plans written up. So this is very important. These adjunctive programs, they're not any more money, they're free to attend. There will be some paid courses, but again, depending on your program, these are often included in the course fee. So there shouldn't be any additional fees for some of these little additional ones. Fee structure, well, the normal fee is £10,000 per year for the part-time program. But we've now reduced that to £7,500 to help out. So those of the people who sign up during this period can benefit from a 25% reduction. And that's going to be at least carried through till anybody that applies for 2021. Once 2021 has passed, that price will no doubt go up. Fortunately, because we're an online institution, we don't have the overheads and the costs that some of the other institutions have to pay, so we can pass some of this saving on to you. And we've looked at the way in which we've developed it, and by cutting down perhaps certain areas but not reducing on quality, we're able to make this reduction. The other thing that we're going to do to help people is we're going to give the option to pay by a monthly instalment. So if, let's say, you sign up to 5 or 6 modules in the next year, and we do an offer letter after our interview, that will be at a 25% reduction, and whatever the amount is will be down to a regular monthly payment of £650, which is tax deductible. So depending on the number of modules you take will depend on the overall fee, and then that will be divided by the number of months, and the most you'll be looking to pay will be £650. Some of you may actually be paying slightly less. So this makes it very affordable. So now is an opportunity, and we talked about opportunities, now is an opportunity to upskill, so that when the new environment becomes more clear and established, and our working practices, our new working practices become clearer, you will have something in which to market yourselves and sell yourselves and promote yourselves. I mean, you need to have something to sell. It's one thing having a shop window, but if you don't have any items in the shop window that people want, it's not going to help you. So to finish off on this presentation today, what's the next step? What do you do next? Well, after this, we'd like you all to complete an evaluation form to get your CPDs. If any of what we've said of interest, or you would like to pursue it in more detail, we will be arranging virtual meetings. These are like university interviews, but hopefully they're not so daunting. They're more about discussing what your needs are, determining what modules you need to do, and coming up with a proposal for your future learning. And then this will be followed up by an offer letter, which you can consider. And at the meeting, there will be normally myself, because I have knowledge of the overall programs, and also we will try to involve the module leader for that particular program. So for example, if it's facial aesthetics, Dr. Brian Franks will be there to answer any facial aesthetics, specific questions that I wouldn't have the knowledge to answer. And orthodontics, again, Dr. Stefan would be able to answer any questions on the orthodontic front. So all that remains is for me to thank you for your participation and